Hi, and welcome to the MOSAS podcast, Musicians of the San Antonio Symphony. This is episode 3, and I'm happy to say this is finally a true podcast that you can get in audio form on Apple Podcasts. It took forever to get uploaded, but we're also available on YouTube and some clips on Facebook. So we are on day 50 of our strike against symphony management due to unfair labor practices. And the musicians want to get back to work. We want to start giving concerts again like normal, and we want to share music with the community. It's very simple. Unfortunately, the deal we have on the table is just a very regressive deal. The musicians of the San Antonio Symphony, I just have to say it every time, sounds so official. We do feel that the musicians should be compensated at a level at least where the average entry-level teacher in Texas gets paid. I think that's a good baseline. We've maintained somewhere around that average all the way up until COVID, and now we have a deal that management believes is living within our means. I would just say, let's increase the means. Let's join together, all of us, and figure out a way to raise money and get community support and move on and start getting this thing going again. I don't think there's any point in dragging this out for many, many months just to make some sort of point. It's almost like a standoff between my cat and the neighbor cat. So anyway, this episode I spoke with Ed Jones, who is the Fort Worth Symphony principal tuba, and he was on the committee, the musicians committee, during their recent strike a few years ago. So he gave me a great perspective on what happened with their strike, and I'm trying to kind of gain some pointers of kind of things to look for and things to learn from their experience. So let's join that conversation now. How you doing, Ed?
Good. How are you, Steve?
Thanks for being here and doing this. So
yeah, thank you for coming in and filling in this week.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a little intro where I explain what's happening, but I'm here subbing, of course, we're playing this week, and we just got done with a dress rehearsal. That's why we look so well dressed. So looking good. I like the suspenders. And so let's get started. Fort Worth Symphony went through a strike. Beginning when and ending when?
We went on strike, would have been September 8th, 2016, and I think the strike ended, it would have been, I think the would have been December 6th in 2016. So it was about a 12-week strike altogether. Yeah.
And what were some of the things that, what was kind of the preamble that led you to that strike?
Well, we have to kind of go back to pre-2010, 2007 or so. We had worked our way up to a 52-week season, and then the recession of 2007, 2008 hit. And part of the problem was that the ballet, which we had 7 weeks of ballet included in our season, and they, to save money, elected to go to recorded music. And our contract, that current contract ended in 2010, so they were able, management was able to carry us over, and we didn't take any cuts. But then when the contract negotiations came up in 2010, there were cuts asked for, and our committee did a great job trying to bargain through it, but ultimately we agreed to a 2-year contract that cut to 45 weeks in the first year and then added 1 back in the second year, so we were at 46 weeks. And we stayed at 46 weeks. 2012 contract got us very, very little in the way of gains. I think there was a 1-year extension and then maybe a 1% a year raise after that. And that brings us to the 2015. And so our proposal that we received would have taken us essentially back to a 42-week season. It was a pretty complicated proposal, and it did some really interesting things in the summer with weeks of 75% pay and, and a lot of what ifs. But and then there were some other economic concessions that we were asked to take in the way of per diems and things like that. So it was a pretty big hit, and we had recovered very little since 2010. And so, we began bargaining, and there wasn't a lot of movement. We started using someone to help us bargain from the AFM. And
they call him a mediator?
Well, no, not a mediator. He was a negotiator. Negotiator. The word escaped me for a minute there, but
that happens to be all the time. When you say negotiator, it makes me think of all the cop movies. So
right.
I'm a negotiator.
Right. No. Yeah. It was a little bit like that.
That cool too.
But yeah, no. Todd Jellin was a negotiator from the AFM. And he worked really, really hard to try to get them to move, but it was obvious there wasn't going to be any movement. And so, bargaining went on for a long time. I mean, we were up into February, and
It started when?
Well, our negotiation started in June of 2015.
And this is pre-strike still.
This is pre-strike. Yeah, we're June 2015 pre-strike. And then so we're bargaining all the way through the fall into the winter. We're bargaining in January. We have a pressure point with the gala, which is a huge fundraiser. We had received a last, best, and final just prior at the end of January, and we, of course, we voted on that contract and turned it down almost unanimously, and then we did a strike authorization vote, and it looked like we were possibly going to go out in February, and then management came back and offered us a one-year extension, which wasn't really a one-year extension because it went retroactive. Our season actually begins September 1st, so it went back to September 1st. And
so it was a half-year extension. Sort of.
Right, a 6 months extension, and which ostensibly gave us an opportunity to get the musicians more prepared in the event that we were not able to bargain our way out of it.
Okay, so that was it wasn't hard to predict that was going to happen when you almost went on strike at that time.
I think not. I think there was some hope that we eventually went into mediation. In that during the summer, during the spring and summer, we had two different mediation sessions, and I think there was some hope. We came to an agreement. We got management to move our direction, and we moved their direction. So in that sense, mediation worked. You found common ground. One of the things that you almost always have to remember with a deal is that a good deal is one that neither side really likes. There's elements that both sides don't like. And so we came up with what was the very best deal we could offer in mediation. And this was, by now we were in August of 2016. And we brought this to the assembly, to the musicians, and they again almost unanimously rejected it in another strike authorization vote, and we walked out of right after dress rehearsal of our first subscription concert.
So a very dramatic sort of showing by you. That's cool. So how far apart were the offer that was initially rejected, and then you almost went on strike, and then the offer where you actually did go on strike?
Miles, because we were still trying to bargain. We were trying to bargain for raises. We were really trying to work to get raises, to get some improved working conditions, and they were sticking to those cuts. They weren't really moving at all off of those cuts.
So you would say both of them, the musicians and management were pretty far apart.
We were very far apart. We really didn't start to come together at all until we got into mediation, which is sort of the point of the mediation. You know, the mediator will look at you and say, look, you got to move, you know. So.
Well, so then you went on strike, obviously.
Right.
And this was what month?
This was September.
September of
2016.
2016. Okay, that's actually when I started my principal position in San Antonio. So.
Congratulations.
Weird timing.
Yeah.
So, what was your approach right from the beginning? I don't know if you want to go in how many details you want to go into, but as far as what was your goal? Obviously, you had told me already you were kind of picketing every day with your musicians kind of right in front of Bass Hall or close to Bass Hall?
Well, legally you can picket your place of employment, wherever that is. And in our case, our place of employment, if we're playing a concert, is in Bass Hall. But if we're not playing a concert, our place of employment is the Maddox Muse building, which is 1 block east of Bass Hall. Both buildings are part of the Performing Arts Fort Worth complex, but the symphony offices are located in the Maddox Muse building. So during the week, we would picket Maddox Muse, and on the weekends that we had concerts scheduled, we would picket Bass Hall. The thing that was really, you know, that kind of had an impact on us, both in a negative and a positive way, is that after, I guess it was maybe a week, they started canceling concerts. And they canceled concerts farther out ahead. And then, you know, when the point came that they canceled concerts through the end of December, you know, that was like, it was a real shock to everybody's system, you know, and that came pretty early on. Actually, I think that was probably in October they canceled out the rest of the year. So you know, if as long as on the schedule if we were supposed to play a Pops concert, we picketed Bass Hall that weekend. If we were supposed to play a subscription concert, we picketed Bass Hall that weekend. The other times during the week, we would picket the main offices.
I'm just curious, did Bass Hall schedule other outside events during this time?
They did not. Well, they did. Bass Hall has you know, a Broadway series, and they continued that, but they did not replace our dates at all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And did community members join you
Yes.
in the picketing?
Yes. We had quite a few community people. You know, I wish I could remember all their names, but we had, you know, it was like there's this one guy. He's a local, I believe he's a local artist, and he and I got to know each other. I just remember his name is Steve something, but he and I got to be pretty good friends. We got to walk in the picket line and talking and became really good friends. We had a lot of support, I think, from downtown businesses. We one night early on in well, I think it was the first weekend of picketing, you know, we were all wearing our green Support the Musicians T-shirts, and the committee when we finished picketing, we walked over to a Mexican restaurant downtown just to get some refreshments and some appetizers, and the waitress brought us this gigantic platter of nachos and said, "Here, this is on the house." You know, they knew what we were down there for. I know that some people talked to managers of some of the restaurants downtown, and they said their business really suffered on the weekends that we weren't playing, because they had there was like a regular dinner crowd that would come in pre-concert, have a bite to eat, and then go over to the concert, or post-concert crowd. So,
well, there's a couple prongs I wanted. So obviously you were doing the picketing almost every day.
Almost every day at some place or another. Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you were kind of doing large events. You did some fundraiser concerts that you planned. How many of those did you do? Do you remember?
Well, we did. You know, we had kind of had a history since the 2010 cuts. We did a series of benefit concerts. We try to do at least one benefit concert a year. Now, it wasn't a benefit concert for us. It would be a benefit for a local charity. for a homeless shelter or something like that.
That is a good idea. Yes.
But it's a it's a great publicity, great thing for publicity. So we would organize these concerts and and do these. So we had some experience doing benefit concerts, but once we went on strike, we did. I don't even remember how many we did, but we were fortunate that Broadway Baptist Church allowed us to use their sanctuary pretty frequently for our concerts.
At that time you were fundraising.
We were fundraising for ourselves. Yeah. I
was going to say if you were just doing charity at that time, you'd be very selfless.
No. We were fundraising for ourselves, and those were very successful. Now, what we did is we came up with a system where, if someone played on the concert, by then, at one point when there was an ICSOM call to action and we started taking in some money in our treasury, we were able to pay the musicians when they played the benefit concerts.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And now it wasn't scale. We weren't able to pay them scale, but we did pay each musician that participated. So that was helpful.
That is any little bit.
It's helpful. I think it's as much a morale booster as it is a pocket booster, because it wasn't huge amounts of money that we were able to offer to them, but it was you're getting paid for this. You're still a professional musician. We still, you're still valued.
And you get to see your colleagues and actually play together.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a small, the very beginning of the season, we did play one concert outside, and because we were still technically covered by the CBA, the previous CBA, collective bargaining agreement, and it I think theoretically was supposed to continue on all throughout the season. So that was adjusted, obviously. But it was a morale booster just to get together and play, that one concert.
Right.
And there was no PA for the conductor to talk to the audience.
Yeah.
So he's like, hello.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was that was good. So there's a couple things I wanted to touch on. Messaging. And you obviously had a very strong message of that we're kind of borrowing in San Antonio. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely
Which
not.
was growth, not cuts.
Correct,
right?
yes.
And I remember seeing, if nothing else, I remember seeing that, and I thought it was really poignant and to the point. And I know you had some other slogans as well, but that was the one that I remember, and it's really to the point, right?
Yeah, right. That's kind of, we had a.
Pull that a little closer.
Way back. I mean, in the summer of 2015, when we were offered that first regressive contract, I mean, we had a strategy session at our union office. It was the players committee, and then our union local president at the time, and then some organizers from the AFM, and we spent 2 long days working on strategies for messaging, for how we were going to approach this in the long term, and so that growth not cuts slogan, as it were, bore out of that session. It kind of distilled. It distilled the fat, rendered the fat out of the whole thing. I mean, what the musicians were looking for was for the orchestra to grow and flourish rather than just stagnate and go backwards.
So there was a bit of an evolutionary change of how things were run. We'll just say that things were adjusted, right?
Right.
As in, what were the leading indicators that, for you, was there something that was happening during the strike, 16 weeks you said, that you thought, okay, we're starting to make some progress and maybe we're on our way out? Or was it a surprise? Because I know you kind of shared with me kind of what led you out of the strike, but during the strike, what were you thinking as far as your progress in the community and what was going to happen?
Well, we had a lot of, I mean, I can remember 3 or 4 times where we had indicators that were going to have a breakthrough. and then the phones would blow up, and we'd be on the phone, and we would be talking back and forth with the committee, and we'd be talking with our union representatives, and this, it looks like this is going to happen. We've had some communication, because there was a lot of stuff going on in the backgrounds too, in addition to, like, I mean, there weren't any negotiation sessions during the strike. I mean, we really did not bargain. We had a couple of we had one informal meeting.
Oh, really?
We had one meeting that was not, it was from the outset was absolutely indicated that it was not a bargaining session. It was just a session to discuss the situation.
About how far in was that? A couple of weeks?
That was that would have been, would have been in October sometime. We did it was on a Saturday, and we were doing this joint brass concert with the DSO brass and the Fort Worth brass at the Water Gardens, and this was like a thing that popped up at the last minute, and so I had to be at that. And then I literally ran downtown, 6 blocks with a tuba on my back to get to the concert. So, but nothing really came out of that. It was just sort of a.
Who called for that, by the way? Do you remember? It was management, or I mean, obviously, it probably would have to be them to agree.
I think it was. It was seen as a good idea. Our union leaders and the management team were talking in the background, and it was seen as something that we should do. Mm-hmm.
And that never happened again until obviously
you're out of the strike. It never happened again. And then we eventually, when the strike was settled, we went into mediation. We had 2 federal mediators. In fact, we had the then head of the Federal Mediation and Reconciliation Services.
So the protocol here, so the strike ended, does that mean that you had a deal on paper, or that's what the mediation is for?
Technically, when you have a deal, I mean, when we come to a deal, all right, we agreed, and I think every situation is different. We agreed when we came to a deal at the end of that. It was a 2-day mediation session. There was an agreement that the picketing would stop, and then we would have our bylaws indicate that we have to have a meeting with the musicians where we spell out the terms of the contract. We open it up for discussion. Everybody's given a written sheet of what's in the new contract. And we discuss openly, and there's a big Q&A session where we answer the questions, and then we have a 72-hour cooling off period between that meeting and the vote. So officially, the strike isn't over until the contract is ratified.
But it was just kind of like, let's everybody chill out. No, we're picking
right,
and then
right,
we're going to figure out.
Right. Well, I mean, that was part of the deal in mediation. They said, well, now that we're at an agreement, the picketing is going to stop, right? Yeah, it'll stop. And then if it's not ratified, if for some reason the contract wasn't ratified, then we start all over again.
It'd be great if there was one person that not great. If there was one person that didn't get the memo, one musician, like, I'm still here. Like, you messed up. It's like, I'm still here. Okay, yeah, dude, we're going to get a deal. So as far as maybe I could bring it home to the most valuable thing selfishly for San Antonio Symphony, not to relate it directly. This is a separate situation, separate symphony, separate conditions. But if you were to give any advice, perhaps, or just maybe not advice, but thoughts that if you could impart them of your experience,
I would say that to hang in there and be sure to the word solidarity comes up a lot in these types of things, and understand that you're all in this together, and there are thousands, maybe millions of orchestra musicians around the country that are watching you and are supporting you. I know it's difficult. It's extremely difficult to rah hang in there when you're not getting a paycheck and you're wondering how the bills are going to get paid. But I would say
Pardon me.
if you're pardoned.
Yeah. Sneezy McSneeze wasn't over here. Continue.
If you haven't already done so, if there's a way to do some kind of social activities with just informal things, just get together, have a picnic someplace, just to get together, and even if it's just a chance for people to bitch and vent their spleens a little bit, because it's going to happen.
Sure.
It's going to happen, but just try to maybe get away from the whole thing for a little while. I mean, we had a lot of orchestra meetings at one of the committee members' houses, and we would just do kind of an informal luncheon, bring pizzas in, and informal luncheon thing, and then. It was a chance where we could just committee members, we just kind of mingle around, and people would ask questions. Sometimes they'd pin us against the wall and point their finger at us, And but everybody. The thing is, everybody's situation is different. Everybody looks at this a different way. I'm sure there are members of the orchestra that were not in favor of going on strike. I'm sure there are those that led the charge, and there's everything in between. And
in our situation, I'm not sure there were, but they didn't. I don't know if they were vocal. If they did not, the ones that did not want to go on strike.
Okay, yeah.
But I can't speak for everyone, obviously. But
yeah,
I feel like it was pretty unanimous. But
Well, another thing, there are maybe people who are. For lack of a better word, maybe a little shy about doing overt actions like
Certainly.
even picketing that may not feel comfortable picketing. Well, there's other things that they can do behind the scenes. They can serve on one of your subcommittees that you probably have.
I'm chair of media committee. Big surprise.
Media committee. Yeah, sure. There's media committee. There's you probably have a strike and picketing committee.
We separated into outreach and action.
Right.
So action is
sure.
kind of creating all the actions, all the events. I could have called it events, but then outreach. Outreaching into other groups and individuals and trying to communicate.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of interconnected, and we're learning a lot. I mean, would you say what was the learning curve for you? Even you had a time to learn in your pre-strike.
Right.
You knew it was coming, which is a great advantage. But what are some of the specific things maybe that you learned as far as approach, or it's very general, but
I think the main thing that we learned through the whole process from beginning when we first for our media and for our messaging we engaged Randy Watley, who has been used by many orchestras and is very, very, very good at navigating that sort of thing. And
yes,
so
he was in San Antonio in about 2015, I believe, right before I got there.
Yeah, you probably still have some people that worked with him that are able to. But the main thing is that you have to develop your points, your messaging points, the points that you want to get across to the public, and then you always want to stay on point, because the media will want to try to drag you off into the weeds. And you've got to stay down the middle of the road.
That's the odd thing is maybe I haven't read every single article I can get my hands on, but I'm working on it. And it seems like all the media coverage is favorable, and it doesn't seem to lend itself to hyperbole too much. But I mean, there's certainly things out there. But would you say that was there an approach that you had as far as it seemed like you were very civil in your discourse, right?
Well, yeah, and I think the thing is as time goes on, it gets less. It gets a little less civil. I mean, you begin to ramp it up. The main thing is that you always want to present facts. verifiable facts.
Yes.
You always want to tell the truth.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that.
You don't want to get into a contest to see who can. You don't want to get into you don't want to get into a pissing match with the other side.
Sure.
If you the thing, you want to take the high ground. You really want to take the high ground, and which is hard to do sometimes. It's really hard to do.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have to imagine, but
yeah. And you'll have orchestra members will want to just like go cut them off at the knees right now. But you have to look at this I hope that your strike is not long term, but you have to always look at it as though it's long term.
Now, were you looking to other Minnesota? What was the timeline for their strike?
Well, they were. I think that was a lock. Was that a lockout?
It was a lockout for a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not considered a strike.
Well,
officially.
yeah, but it's everything. It's the same thing. Basically, you're out of work.
It's a technicality where I guess we were talking about the other day. You can collect unemployment as a musician when you're locked out, which is, as I said, I don't want to speak to any merits of these different structures because I really can't. I don't know, but. Did you learn anything? The point with that was, did you learn anything from other strikes or your other obviously, as I'm doing from you, did you have conversations with other organizations, other musicians?
Yes. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we were in a bit of a quandary about was that, all of a sudden we had this influx of money from the call to actions. Mm-hmm. And the question was, what do we do with it?
Yeah. So for those that don't know, the call to action, if we didn't already explain, is through the union. Really,
No, from ICMA.
Okay, sorry, ICMA.
Yeah, ICMA.
Yeah. It's so essentially as a call to action, or people have tried to describe it differently, call to donate or something like that, because it's more of the action is donation from other organizations, other symphony orchestras, other union organizations. And so San Antonio Symphony has been received quite a bit of money. Yeah. Those numbers will be posted if they haven't already.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of posting. The updates, it's wonderful. So essentially goes into our war chest or our account to help us plan events. And like you said, you were paying musicians out of that account.
Right. We were able to
for the concert kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right. We were able to we added to that with our benefit concerts, and then we were able to pay out. We also made, in addition to paying for musicians when they played on benefit concerts, we did periodic disbursements where we would write checks to the musicians out of that account, because that's really what it's for. It's to support the musicians. We just had to be careful about making decisions. How much is this going to be, and because you don't want to spend it all up front, and not have any on the backside.
Everybody goes to Windstar or Choctaw and bets on black,
Right.
Come on. We're going to become millionaires.
I hope not.
Yeah.
No. But the thing.
Just kidding. It's very responsibly used, obviously.
But kind of an answer to your question, I think one of the things that we, the thing that was really helpful was I made a phone call one night to Michael Moore in Atlanta. Because, as you know, Atlanta went through a couple of lockouts and had some real struggles. But Michael, if you don't know, was the longtime treasurer of ICSOM, and was has been. And I think he stepped down, but he was the treasurer for the Atlanta Symphony Musicians Association for ever.
By the way, for those that don't know, ICSOM is International Conference of Symphony and Opera Musicians.
Yes, but Michael probably knows more about the business of orchestra from the player's side than anybody alive. And I had one night I remember talking to him on the phone for 2 hours, and he said, "Well, did you do this, such and such?" And I said, "No." He goes, "You haven't? Well, you better do that. And then, have you done this?" "No." "Well, you better do that."
So what was the pitch, the this and such then?
Yeah. Well, part of it was, the question of starting a 501c3, a nonprofit.
Yes.
Did
you end up doing that?
We did not. We started the process
because the process takes so long. I've been told already that
it can.
It's almost better. It has been discussed that if we wanted to do that, it's better to use a proxy 501c3 to channel money for you that already exists.
What I would suggest is that you have your treasurer or whoever handles your money, and a couple other people maybe to sit down with an accountant that has experience with nonprofits, and just kind of have a discussion with the accountant and find out if it's for you.
Mm-hmm. And the advantage of this would be if people want to make tax deductible donations, right?
Yes, that's the thing. Now the thing is that we applied for a 501c3, and it was kicked back because we used what was our Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra Musicians Players Assembly. Your MOSAS is FWSOPA for us, Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra Players Assembly.
FWSOPA.
FWSOPA.
Of course. Why would I say
FWSOPA?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot that. Yeah. I was just using the worth part. Yeah.
So it got kicked back because it was the name was too close to the.
I'm sorry, we have the FWSOPA.
Yeah.
I feel like it's
MOSAS.
FWSOPA. That's okay.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it was kicked back, so we had to start over again, and then by the time we got everything together, the strike was over.
Oh.
And so then you're like, okay, do we follow through with this or not? I went to the ICMA conference, I guess it was in August of 2019. And of course, Michael was there, and he and I sat down at a table for about 2 hours, and I had a discussion with him and at least 3 other people about the pros and cons of a 501c3 versus not having one. And I think the consensus was that probably in our situation at this point in time, it's not worth it wouldn't be of benefit to us. Now that the storm clouds have moved on.
Yeah.
You
brought out your umbrella after the storm.
Right.
So you weren't chair of the negotiating committee till later, is that right?
I was not chair of the committee. I was not chair of the players committee until after the strike.
Right. So you were, what was your title? Just member?
I was the secretary of the committee. So I kept all the notes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So other prongs of this, I'm just trying to think of, we talked a little bit about messaging, a little bit about how posturing, things like that. What other gems of knowledge could you impart about this whole process? Because there's so many different things to it for me.
Wow.
How do you like that really focused question? It really helps you focus your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing. I guess the thing I keep coming back to is keeping unity within the orchestra. Our situation was different than yours in that they're looking at in your case they're looking at like scrapping everything and coming up with a whole new model for the orchestra, and I don't think that's acceptable. It doesn't seem like it's acceptable to anybody down there.
Here would be a focus question. How was there a way that you were trying to communicate that you would never accept the deal, that you would just stay on strike? Because was there something that you were thinking would make that clear, or you just thought we're just going to have to ride this out for a certain length of time?
Well, it's kind of a standoff, really. If at any point we would have said to them, okay, we're ready to come back to the table, that's sending a message to them that we're ready to take concessions. And in fact, it was us that said we're ready to come back to the table and we're ready to go into mediation.
Really? It was you?
It was us, but see, our situation was, let me get a little bit of lubrication here.
Yes.
Oddly
Talk
enough,
about chapstick, by the way.
Oddly enough, I prefer Nivea.
Nivea.
Nivea is
maybe
good
we
stuff.
can get a sponsor for this podcast. Man.
Nivea. I stay away from anything with camphor or camphor oil in it, but just a brass player tip.
What is camphor anyway?
Camphor is, I don't know exactly what it is.
Sounds like a players organization.
But
FWSO, camphor.
Well, I know
MOSAS.
Camphor is the stuff like in Carmex, and it gives you that tingling sensation, but it just kind of makes your lips feel numb and waxy.
Oh, okay.
So I stay away from it anyway.
Yeah,
anyway,
nothing to do with menthol. Okay.
No. I guess not. I don't know.
All right. So you came to the table.
Well,
you asked to come to the table.
Here's the thing. So we were X number of dollars apart. I mean, when you take what their proposal was and where we were at, it was, X number of dollars. Okay. And at some point we were asked by an outside party, well, what is that number? Okay. And so we gave them that number, and then out of nowhere there appeared an anonymous donor that offered to put in the money
to make the difference.
Mm-hmm. But it kind of had to be on our terms. So, when we said we wanted to come back to the table, you can only assume that they thought we were ready to take concessions, but in fact we were there to present this.
You had already had it planned. You knew that difference would be made, in other words.
Yes.
So that was the cards that you were holding at that time. It wasn't like you were coming back to them saying, "Oh, we want to talk." You knew.
We knew. Yes, we knew. We had the whole thing. I mean, we knew.
Well, maybe one day we'll know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ours.
We will know.
Ours was it's an unusual situation. I don't know if you're going to have a guardian angel show up or not. But
time will tell.
I mean,
I'm optimistic for whatever reason. That's just my personality. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a terrible projection.
I mean, that's basically how we ended. I mean, ours ended without us taking concessions. It actually ended with a progressive contract. We did a 4-year contract with it was a freeze in the first 2 years and then bumps, 3% and 4% bumps in the third and fourth year. Now, because of the pandemic, we are now in the 6th year of our 4-year contract, because what we did, we've done 2 consecutive extensions. Mm-hmm. We should have been negotiating in 2020, but that didn't happen. So.
I could just say, though, I applaud you you were playing all through COVID. You've hired a music director from a very relatively large organization, phasing out a lot of your lower contracts that existed. So it's like there's so much growth that you actually are making good from that slogan. Which is why I think it was so important to talk to you about all this and just how everything is going. I actually might want to do this again and check in, because as this thing progresses, I think it's good to check in with people that have been there. So I think we'll leave it there for now, and we'll make this a to be continued. I'm coming back to sub here and there, but maybe we'll have more information.
I just want to say that I wish you all the best of luck, and my thoughts and my heart is with you, because I know what you're going through. I know how difficult it is, and I just want to tell the San Antonio Symphony musicians to hang in there and be strong and hold together, and get together and bitch and moan when you need to, and get together and hug and cry when you need to, and lean on each other. I guess one of the great things out of that whole strike is that there are people that there were people in the orchestra that I've never talked to.
I found
and all of a sudden, I know everybody.
There's a silver lining in this, and I found, I try to find them. It's making me work hard, practice very hard, of course. But hang out with some people in certain events that I don't, maybe wouldn't have planned. So, I mean, that is a few upsides you can find from it.
Sure.
I
think one thing that, I don't know if you guys have done this, but one thing that you should consider, if you don't have it already, is some kind of I forget what we called it. Maybe it was Health and Welfare Committee or something like that. Just some people. If you've always have people in the orchestra that are the moms and dads of the orchestra, and just the more empathetic.
That is like the nicest thing I've ever heard for something like just a committee just to make sure everyone's okay.
Even if it's informal, just to call and check up on people. How you doing? How are things going? Is there anything we can do for you? Because that's really important. And
you had that.
Yeah, we had that.
It was an official, or there was unofficial.
It was official. It was official. Yeah.
Now that actually could be some of the best advice I've heard in a while.
Yeah. Now there's another thing that you need to be aware of.
I'll do taco parties. That's
taco parties. Yeah, there you go.
Taco parties at my place.
So there's an organization called Music Cares. Are you familiar with that?
No.
It's part of the Grammy organization.
Okay.
And it would be worth your time or somebody's time to look into it, do a little research in it. But what they do is they provide help to musicians in need, and they were very active during COVID because there were a lot of musicians in need during COVID. But they what we did, what you can do is you can make a I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but you can make a deposit in Music Cares. We made a substantial deposit in Music Cares. And if any of our musicians needed funds to pay rent, to make a car payment, make car repairs or something, they would go through Music Cares and draw from our funds that we had deposited in there.
From your war chest and
yeah. We took a chunk of money and we sent it to Music Cares, and then if they needed money, they identified themselves as a member of the Fort Worth Symphony, and if they needed $2,000 for a transmission or something like that in their car, they would. There was some paperwork, but
was it easier to do it that way than do it directly?
Well, here's the thing about doing it that way versus doing it directly. Somebody in your organization is going to have to be responsible for saying yes or no.
Oh God, can you imagine having that responsibility?
Right.
Oh, that would create problems. So I see now why you use the outside party. Yes.
Yeah.
It's very clear.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's very clear. So okay, we're going to look into that. And we're gonna health and wealth. What are you calling that?
Health and welfare, health and well-being.
Yes, we're gonna do that because I can't say what we're gonna do, but it sounds like a nice idea, and I think we can investigate that.
Yeah,
we can actually care about each other. I think, is what. And thank you for caring about us and appearing here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I got a schedule of the picketing events, or looks like one in November. I may try to actually come down and walk the line with you because I just haven't been getting my steps in like I did.
Well, there you go, and you can stay at my place when you
Yeah, okay.
I got a new house, so
cool.
Interesting timing for that one. So thanks again. Appreciate it. Oh, I wasn't recording the whole time. Just kidding.
Oh, let me just say before we quit, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, ever since the days of the Date with the Bass Trombone Player video.
Yeah,
that was.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm doing new stuff too.
That was hilarious.
He's talking about. I used to actually do fun things. By the way, the concept for this might change into just talking about serious orchestra business. Maybe we'll just have hangouts and just talk about fun stuff too.
Yeah.
But I'm good. I'm working on a new show. That's nothing to do with any of this. Yeah.
But by the way, the Composite video that you did, the San Antonio Symphony did during COVID, every orchestra was doing these little composite things, and then you come out with the last 9 minutes of Mahler 2.
Yeah.
And nobody else said, not gonna do it.
Not gonna do it.
Not gonna do it. Not gonna try to compete with that.
Yeah, that took a lot of time, and I'm glad people liked it.
It was amazing. It was really amazing.
It was a good thing for me because a lot of people sought me out to pay me to do that. It was a good thing during COVID that ended up being a lot of what I did.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I looked at that and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, I was thinking that the whole time. What am I doing? Collecting emails. And well, anyway, thanks so much, Ed. This has been
Thank
great.
you, Steve.
And I appreciate all your time. So,
you bet.
All right,
good luck.
Let's go play Petrushka in
Let's
3, 4, 5, 6 hours.
Yeah, that's enough time for a nap.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Shout out to my sponsors. Oh, wait, I don't have any sponsors. If you want to be a sponsor, actually, if you just want to say hello, email me at mosaspodcast@gmail.com, and we'll see you next episode. Thanks.